Good morning, my neighbour!
Good morning, you sexy mother hubbards. The royal B-listers step up to fill a hole, and from one a-hole to another a-hole, Rishi Sunak is still refusing to give back that 10 million. Grant Shapps is pretending to be somebody else again, this time a competent defence secretary, and the Rwanda bill, which breaks international law, will become UK law. Next week, it's time for an alternative paper review.
It's the alternative paper review.
First up to the Telegraph today. Oh, look at that. Zara turns on the style. Oi, Zara! Zara, come here. You know the weirdness with Kate and Will? You know how nobody's talking, but the tabloids, they need a picture of a royal for the front page of the Telegraph and the Times and all of that stuff. Could you just, do a little dance or something? I guess Jerry Halliwell failed the audition yesterday. Just beneath that, foreign state ownership of UK newspapers to be banned amid Telegraph takeover bid. Now, I like this story, and I'll tell you why. I know people who work in publishing, right? And they endlessly harp on about how hard it is to make money in publishing these days. Oh, you'd be lucky to get anything published, and certainly to make any money out of it, eh? Well, tell that to whoever was the original writer of this piece in the Telegraph, because it has been reprinted 1,000 times now. I mean, think of the royalties. Oh, my ears are burning. Did somebody say royalty? Royalties! Not royalty. What is she doing out? Get her back in the cage! Anyway, this is the latest front page edition of the Telegraph publicly soiling itself at the prospect of being bought out by the former head of CNN, which is largely seen as a left-of-centre news organisation, so they don't like that, but also his consortium of investors that happens to include the United Arab Emirates. And so now the Telegraph editorial line is very much like, well, hang on a second, I don't know if it's entirely sensible to hand over UK news outlets ostensibly to foreign states. You know, there's this fear that, what if in 2 to 5 years the UK gets itself in some sort of geopolitical entanglement with the United Arab Emirates or with one of their allies? And then the Telegraph feel this pressure to appease or placate their investors, their overlords. And even if the UAE, if those investors don't have any editorial influence, there might be occasions where the editor of the Telegraph feels like he or she cannot publish a piece. So even if there's no direct involvement from the investors, there could still be this, it could be damaging, is what they're saying. And I have to say, I do have some sympathy with that. I do think there should be some processes and protocols put in place to stop foreign, possibly nefarious individuals with dodgy track records from owning UK news or media outlets. But I also think as we look to implement these tightened regulations, we should put them in retrospectively. I do want to see the state strip the assets of one Rupert Murdoch. And while you're at it, maybe take a look at this guy. Don't mind me and my KGB father. We will buy your newspapers and poison the minds of your citizens. Oh yeah. Over to the Express now. Migrant flight plans to Rwanda are in good place. Right, so they're not in Rwanda then. Yes, anyway, this is the story that next week the Rwanda bill, this idea that we're going to ship our refugees off to Rwanda, that is going to become law. And the whole thing is ridiculous. I feel like I've talked it to death now, it's an economically unviable, sociopathic bill. The idea that you're going to take any refugees and ship them off to a country like Rwanda with their track record of disappearing refugees. The idea it's a deterrent when only a tiny fraction of people who arrive here through small boats or any other means would ever be at risk of going to Rwanda. The whole thing is ridiculous. Meanwhile, up the top there, Grant Shapps attacks bully Putin after his nuclear threat. Wow. Okay. Yeah, good stuff there, Grant. We've had billions of dollars of aid going over to Ukraine, international sanctions. Ukrainian armies are marching into Russian villages now. Billions of dollars of weapons in shipments, attempted coups. None of that worked. None of it did the trick, but I tell you what will. A job-hopping web marketer with more pseudonyms than P. Diddy has called Putin a bully. I don't want you guys to think that I'm one of these weird Western pro-Putin kind of accounts, right? I don't like Putin any more than anybody does. But the idea that Putin should be intimidated by Grant Shapps is a little bit... Oh, he's called him a bully, has he? Right, well, I reckon they'll be out of Donetsk by lunchtime. I always thought that labelling someone a bully was kind of ridiculous and non-productive, Because, like, the kind of personality that becomes a bully is not somebody who's capable of reflection or who cares or who has compassion. You know? It's somebody who beats up somebody smaller than them in the playground because they enjoy it. It's like, oh, I wasn't able to evoke one single feeling when I was physically breaking your nose in the playground. I had no regret whatsoever. Oh, but now you've called me a word to describe that. Well, now I'm overcome with regret and guilt. I don't know if I'll ever get over it. Finally, to the Mirror, and Sunak still has no plans to give back the £10 million to the racist who donated it to his party. Which, look, this might shock you, okay? I don't think they should give that 10 million back to the racist guy. Here's what I think they should do. They should have to write a check for 10 million and give it directly to Diane Abbott. And then, Diane, if you're watching, I think you need to go out and get yourself a fat mojito, love.